Hello, you, the one who's listening right now in what may seem like just another ordinary moment. But the truth is, this isn't random. If you're here, it might mean something important is already making its way to you, not through noise, but through knowing, through something softer, something deeper. There are messages that not everyone is ready to hear. But if your heart, even just for a second, feels open because of one sentence, then maybe, just maybe, you are one of the few who have been chosen to receive it. And tonight, I want to tell you something. Not everyone gets a warning, but those who are ready, they feel it right from the very first moment because something is coming. A lawyer is about to contact you. And no, this isn't a coincidence. Aries, let me tell you a story. But maybe it's not just a story. Maybe it's the echo of your own voice, calling from a deeper layer of time, where unfinished things still wait to be named. How many times have you felt like you've been waiting for something? Not clear, not defined, but real, like there's an invisible thread connecting you to something that hasn't arrived yet. A phone call, a letter, a message written by fate. Don't brush off that feeling, because it might just be the first whisper of destiny. In this week's energy, I see it clearly. A heavy wooden door slowly creaking open. No sound, no drums, but behind it there's light. Not the kind of light that blinds. The kind that reveals justice. Not courtrooms, but cosmic justice. The kind that belongs to those who lived right, who waited with grace, who kept their dignity intact, even in silence. Aries, someone is on their way to contact you. A legal representative. Maybe a lawyer, a consultant, a relative. And what they bring isn't just paperwork. It's a message, a document, a long-awaited truth, a right to know that was taken from you long ago. This isn't spam. It isn't random, it's a marker, a sacred return from a soul contract, signed long before you forgot what you were here for. I'm not telling you this to build expectations. I'm telling you to help you remember that you've been hurt by being forgotten, that you've doubted yourself, when what you deserved didn't arrive in time, that you've stayed quiet, when truth was buried because you didn't know who to tell. But now, it seems the universe is rearranging the board. A benefit that was buried, an amount that was frozen, a truth that someone delayed or hid. It's moving now, not because you demanded it, but because you're finally ready. And let me say this as clearly and gently as I can. You're not just being handed something material. You're being given back a part of your soul, the part you tucked away to survive. And it's finding its way back to you now, through the ordinary language of law, but with the sacred meaning of return. You no longer have to fight to be seen. No need to prove your worth anymore, because this time, the very forces you once feared are the ones standing beside you, quietly, patiently, right on time. Let yourself believe it. Sometimes you don't need to shout to be heard. You just need to show up, and the world begins to correct itself, to return what always belonged to you. You're listening right now, in silence, in the late hours, or in the space between two breaths. Know this. This is the moment the door begins to open. Everything is shifting, not loudly, but deeply, and a message is on its way, not from a stranger, but from a piece of your past that's ready to close in light. Listen to your heartbeat right now. It's calling you toward recognition, not just from the law, but from the universe itself. And sometimes, to begin again, you don't need an apology. You just need the right call, the right envelope, the right truth, finally revealed when your soul is calm enough to receive it. And maybe, just maybe, what you thought was a small moment is actually the beginning of the biggest thing you've never dared to believe in. So if your mind is opening right now, let your heart take the next step. Aries, in a world where truth is often buried under paperwork, procedures, and louder voices than your own, have you ever felt like a ghost in the very story of your life? Not because you didn't try, but because even after doing things right, even after doing enough, you were still never called by name, still never handed what you truly deserved. Doors closed, messages went unanswered, files seemed to float in limbo forever. And so you learned silence. You learned how to live with what was left undone. You learned how to wait. But here's what most people don't tell you. Waiting too long doesn't make you weaker. In fact, it teaches you a different kind of strength. the kind that doesn't shout or beg, but stands firm like roots deep in the earth, quiet but unshakable. And today, as you listen to these words, maybe for the first time in a very long time, you're being reminded of something sacred. You're no longer standing on trial in your own life. You are not being judged. You are being recognized. And deeper than recognition, something else is happening, something healing, not through promises, but through action, through the movement of something you thought had long been put to sleep. Maybe it arrives as a delayed payment, a frozen account that finally clears, a contract you had given up on. Maybe it's a benefit you once applied for, waited for, but it never reached you because of a glitch, a system error, or some unseen complication. It's easy to believe you were forgotten, but I'm here to remind you, with all my heart, the universe never forgets what belongs to you. Every right choice you made, every time you chose calm instead of anger, every silent act of forgiveness that no one ever knew about. It was all written down, not in human records, but in the records of energy, and what you're witnessing now is the echo of that record, a pulse of justice, a delayed adjustment, but never a meaningless one. We often think justice is just rules and laws, but on a soul level, justice is when your heart feels lighter. It's when you no longer have to explain your pain, because someone just understands. And today, that understanding may come in the form of a letter, a call, or maybe just a short notification. But no matter the form, what matters most is not the message itself, but how it makes you feel. That feeling, that finally, you've been answered. Not everyone will understand that moment. It won't be loud. It won't be posted on social media. But for you, it will be sacred. A quiet moment when you realize you don't have to fight to live right anymore. You're allowed to exhale, you're allowed to smile, you're allowed to believe again, and sometimes, with just one small act, opening an envelope, answering the phone, or replying to an email you nearly forgot, you're not just responding to the world, you're finally responding to yourself. After years of silence, and within that silence, might be the very first bell that rings in, an entirely new beginning. Sometimes we don't need another victory. We just need someone to say, I see you. I know what you've been through. I understand why you're tired. I recognize that you kept going even when everything inside you was falling apart. And if that truth is echoing in your chest right now, please don't hold it back anymore. Let your heart be touched by what it's been waiting for so many years. Recognition. There are people who live their lives like a silent climb up a mountain. They don't show off. They don't complain. They don't ask for maps or resting places. They just keep going, day after day, holding on to the quiet hope that if they don't give up, maybe life won't give up on them either. And you listening to this right now, you are one of those people. You've walked through darkness no one ever knew about. You held back your tears so you wouldn't burden anyone. You forced yourself to be strong, to be kind, to be worthy, even when all you wanted was to rest. You've sacrificed. You've shrunk yourself. You've tolerated unfairness. Just because you told yourself, I can take a little more. But that little more stretched across years. Now the wheel is turning, not as a gift, but as a result. A result of the patience that never asked to be praised. A result of the kindness that didn't need to be seen. A result of you staying true to yourself, when it would have been easier to give up. So yes, the arrival of a legal representative, a lawyer, a formal message, it may catch you off guard, but look deeper. They're not coming to demand a price. They're coming to return something that was hidden, a paper that went missing, a payment that was delayed, a right that was denied. More importantly, they arrive not as the star of the story, but as the side character, to help you, the main character, step into a new chapter, a chapter where you no longer bow your head, no longer chase validation, a chapter where you stop living like a rough draft of someone else's life. I know, the hardest part of the journey is not moving forward, it's allowing yourself to receive, to relax, to step into the light, without needing an apology from those who hurt you. And I'm here to tell you, from the deepest part of my heart, you don't need anyone else to validate your worth. The universe already did. Now it's time to let that validation land in your real life, through papers, messages, money, rights. and a peace you no longer dared to believe was possible. The door is opening, and no, you don't have to knock. It's opening because you're finally ready, and when you step through, step not as someone running away, but as someone coming home, and in that quiet return, you'll realize the miracle was never just in the gift you received, but in the fact that you never lost yourself while waiting for it. Have you ever felt like you were standing in front of a door, one that no one else could see? A door without a handle, without a knock, without any clear sign that it's about to open. Yet deep in your heart, you know it's there, so real, so close, just waiting for you to admit that you're finally ready to walk through. Not everyone sees that door, and not everyone is brave enough to step into the part of life they know will change everything. Because the hardest part isn't seeing the truth, it's facing it, receiving it, and accepting that once you move forward, there's no going back to how things were. This message isn't for everyone because it doesn't speak in words, it speaks in vibrations. In that tightening in your chest when you hear a story that feels like it was yours all along. In a sudden tear you can't explain because something inside you has just been touched. And if you're hearing this, if you're feeling this, if it feels like your name is being called in the middle of something invisible, then maybe, just maybe, you are the one who's been chosen not because you're better, but because you've walked through things no one else could see. You stayed when everything told you to leave. You kept your kindness even when the world didn't return it. You quietly stitched up the tears in your soul with no one watching. And now, as the energy of transformation starts to rise, you don't need to make noise. You just need to nod in silence and whisper to the universe, "I'm ready," because energy, you know, always responds to what's most honest. It doesn't ask for performance. It doesn't require explanation. It just needs you to believe, truly believe, that you're done running, that you're no longer sitting backstage in the story of your life, that if a new chapter is beginning, you want to walk into it, without the old fears, without letting the past tie your feet anymore. And maybe you can start with one small action, one declaration, one written sentence, not for the algorithm, but for yourself. I'm ready to receive what's already mine. Softly, gently, but only when your heart truly wants to be free, because this isn't just a pretty affirmation, it's a ritual, a sacred handshake between you and something higher. It's a moment when you say, "I accept, I allow, I am willing to walk with it." Transformation isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just a closing of the eyes, a relaxing of your shoulders after years of carrying weight, a silent decision that doesn't need anyone else's permission, but it will unlock a door you thought you lost the key to long ago. And when that door opens, it won't just lead you somewhere new, it will bring you home to yourself. And if your heart is slowing down right now, if the air around you feels still, maybe, just maybe, that's not coincidence. Maybe that's the first sign that the door is truly starting to move. Have you ever noticed repeating numbers, strange number sequences that seem to appear at random moments when you check the time, when you see a receipt, or even while glancing at a license plate on an ordinary day? No one ever taught you to pay attention to them, and yet somehow you just know they mean something, because every time you see them, your heart skips a beat, as if something is trying to speak through those numbers. The truth is, the universe is never silent. It speaks to you every single day, not in human language, but in codes of light. And these divine numbers are some of the most subtle signals you'll ever receive when your energy starts to resonate on a higher frequency. Right now, you might be seeing 3 specific numbers more often than ever: 777, 999, and 1111. These are not coincidences. They are messages, whispers, gentle welcomes from the other side of a door you're about to walk through. 777 is the number of spiritual completion. When you see 777, it's not just a beautiful sequence, it's a cosmic nod, a quiet confirmation from the universe that you're on the right path, that your silent efforts, your moral choices, your moments of forgiveness instead of revenge, they've all been seen, all been counted. You're approaching a harvest, not just in the material world, but in your inner growth. So when 777 appears, pause, take a deep breath, And know you are being protected, guided, and lovingly led. 999 is different. It arrives like a soft goodbye, a signal that an old chapter in your life is closing. It could be a relationship that no longer aligns, a limiting belief you've carried for far too long, a job, a role, a version of your identity that once served you, but now needs to be released. 999 doesn't carry sadness. It carries liberation. It's the quiet voice that says, "It's enough now, you don't have to carry this anymore. Let the old gently fall away, so the new has space to enter." And then, there's 1111, perhaps the most magical number of them all. When you see 1111, stop everything, because that's the moment the gateway opens. A crack between the material world and the energetic realm begins to show. It's a chance to speak your wish, a brief second where everything connects straight to source energy. 1111 is a handshake with the future, a bridge between what is and what's waiting for you to arrive. Don't ignore these moments. Don't write them off as random. Pay attention to how you feel when they show up, because that feeling, that quiet awareness, is your intuition speaking, the part of your soul that still remembers the language of the universe. You don't have to understand everything logically. Sometimes, believing in the small signs is enough to lead you to the biggest changes. And if today you've seen 777 or 999 or 1111, please know this: you are no longer where you once were. You are shifting, softly, step by step, toward the place you were always meant to be. And when you begin to notice these subtle signals, they begin to appear more clearly, as if the world itself is gently pulling back the curtain, inviting you to finally see what you once weren't ready to see. There's a common misunderstanding, one that many people carry with them their entire lives and never even realize. It's this: when money finally arrives, they rush to use it to patch old wounds. They pay off delayed debts, try to soothe the fear of lack that once haunted them. They use it to make up for the times they were rejected, felt less than, or left behind. And then, the money leaves, leaving behind nothing but a fleeting sense of relief. But money, when it comes as part of good karma, as part of your liberation, isn't meant to be used just to fix the past. It's meant to help you rewrite the future. That's the difference between healing and escaping, between creating and merely repairing. And you, who have waited, endured, held on for so long, you deserve a new beginning, one that no longer carries the memory of not having enough. Imagine this: what if you didn't spend your first dollars just to quiet a fear, but to build a dream? What if you stopped using money just to survive and started using it to choose? Not to meet someone else's expectations, but to redesign your life the way you truly want to live it. That's when money becomes energy, a current with its own intelligence, a frequency that knows exactly where it's being called and why. And when you treat money as a trusted ally rather than a last-minute fix, it stays longer, flows better, grows kinder with you. And did you know how you welcome money is part of opening your frequency to receive more? Start with something simple, but intentional. Let your body taste abundance again, not with an expensive feast, but maybe just a small sacred meal made with yellow foods, corn, turmeric, pineapple. These are foods of light, of warmth, of the sun. The sweetness of pineapple, the warmth of turmeric, the juiciness of steamed corn, they don't just feed your body, they awaken your soul, the part that's been stuck in survival mode for far too long. And when night falls, light a gold candle, not to beg, but to gently declare to the universe, I am ready to live a life no longer ruled by financial fear. I don't need to be rich to be free. I need to choose. I need to feel peace when I check my bank account. I need to know I can help, pause, or begin again, anytime I choose. And maybe, just maybe, in that sacred moment, as you take the last bite of pineapple, or as the candlelight dances across your quiet room, the flow of abundance will begin to find its way to you, not just to stay, but to bloom. Sometimes, what returns to your life doesn't come back to continue, but to finally complete. A message from someone you once loved, a phone call from a family member you haven't spoken to in years, a Facebook memory that suddenly brings back a photo you forgot. These things don't come back to reopen wounds. They come to help you close what your heart has been carrying for too long. Without a proper goodbye, people often struggle to say farewell, not because they're still in love or still angry, but because they were never allowed to leave in peace. So many relationships end with silence, with misunderstandings, with exhaustion, no thank you, no kind final glance, and so they never really end. They hang there like a string of energy suspended in midair, weighing down your chest each time a name is spoken, making it hard to breathe. Each time the memory returns, and time goes on. You think you've moved on. You think you don't care anymore, until one small moment hits, a strange dream, a familiar song, someone accidentally mentioning their name, and suddenly you realize you never truly let go. You only learned how to avoid. The Six of Cups in tarot is not a call to return to the past. It's a reminder, finish what was never finished. Give those unfinished endings the closure they deserve, so you no longer have to revisit them every time your heart feels heavy. So you no longer have to pretend you've forgotten, when all you did was fold the memory and hide it away in an old drawer. People from the past don't always come back to hurt you again. Sometimes they return as mirrors to show you how far you've come, to show you how much you've grown, to let you see that you're finally strong enough to face the memory without fear. They don't return to stay. They return to give you what they still owe. A whispered apology, a final look of gratitude, or simply a moment for you to finally say the words you never got to say, I forgive you, or thank you for what we once had. Let the ending happen, not in bitterness, but in gratitude. Gratitude for the lessons, for the love, for the pain that shaped you into who you are today. You don't need to rebuild the bridge. You just need to untie the knot. You don't have to begin again. You just need to close the chapter with peace in your eyes and stillness in your heart. And if someone reaches out in the coming days, through a message, a glance, or a chance encounter, ask yourself one gentle question. What part of me still needs healing from this? If the answer is silence, then let your silence be kind. If the answer is forgiveness, then let compassion speak for you. And if the answer is no need to reconnect, then let your goodbye be bathed in light, not bitterness, because sometimes the way you let go of something old is what determines how you arrive at what's waiting for you next. Sometimes you don't need anyone to tell you you've changed. All it takes is looking in the mirror on a quiet morning in a different place with eyes that no longer look the same. Something inside you is cracking, but not because it's breaking, because it's growing. Lately, you may have tried so hard to fit into something, a role, a place, a group, a dream that once excited you, but no longer makes your heart beat faster. You quieted your voice so you wouldn't cause conflict. You held back your true feelings so no one would call you too much. You kept telling yourself, maybe I'm just being too sensitive, and you stayed. You kept trying, kept adjusting, kept shrinking, until you no longer recognized who you were. But then, something strange began to happen. You stopped being able to pretend. Your body started speaking. Sleep became restless. Fatigue wasn't temporary anymore. You began to feel like you were too big for the space you were in, not because you were arrogant, but because the old energy could no longer contain the you that was emerging. That was the sign that you're standing at a nameless crossroads, a turning point that, if you dare to take it, won't require you to burn bridges. Just to stop making yourself smaller, just to stop asking for permission to live in your own light. There is a ritual, simple but powerful, a quiet doorway to step out of the old shell without harming anyone, not even yourself. Find a piece of paper, sit in a quiet space, and write down 10 things you're no longer willing to carry. They don't have to be grand. Sometimes it's as small as, I'm no longer willing to apologize for being deep, or I'm no longer willing to carry the weight of others' emotions as my own. Write them down, not for anyone else, but so that you can hear yourself more clearly. It's a small act, but in the energetic realm, every time you put your truth onto paper, you create space. Space for a new version of you to breathe. A version that doesn't need to hide, doesn't need to dim its light, doesn't need to wait for the right time to shine. That version of you has always been there. You were just too busy surviving to hear its voice. And if you're hearing this on a quiet night, please know you are not alone somewhere on this earth. Others like you are writing too, breathing, learning to say no to what no longer fits, remembering themselves after years of living in someone else's definition. Because sometimes all you really need to begin a new life is to stop asking for permission and start accepting that you are worthy of a light that doesn't have to shrink. Everything begins with a thought, but not just a passing thought, not the 3 a.m. whispers of worry. It starts with a vision, clear enough to make your heart race. Each time you think about it, a picture lit by faith, not faith in others, but in your own soul. When you sit down, detach yourself from the world's rushing rhythm and write out your ideal day as if it has already happened. You're not just describing something, you're opening a portal, you're sending an invitation, one that the universe only answers when it's honest enough and clear enough. Don't write from a place of lack. Don't write with the voice of the version of you that's still struggling. Write as you, the one who has already crossed the threshold. Imagine waking up in a room bathed in golden morning light. No alarms, no rushing, just the sound of birds and the rare feeling of your body, soft, unguarded, free. You make yourself a cup of coffee or warm lemon water and you sit by the window where sunlight covers your face like a warm blanket of life. Your ideal day doesn't have to be grand. It only needs to touch the parts of you that are quietly yearning but have never been named. Maybe it's the peace of looking at your bank account and feeling safe. Maybe it's a breakfast made for you with love. Maybe it's a message from someone who truly sees you, or simply a day where no one needs anything from you, and yet your presence is enough. This isn't a faraway dream, it's a blueprint, one your soul has kept for a long, long time. And when you write in the language of feeling. Don't just say, "I woke up in a beautiful house." Say, "I woke up with deep gratitude, knowing I no longer live by anyone else's rules." Write about the ease you feel, hearing the laughter of someone you love. Write about the moment you look in the mirror and see yourself radiant, whole, no longer needing to prove a thing. Imagination is not a child's game. It's your sacred power, a divine contract to co-create with the universe everything you've ever seen in this world. From skyscrapers to soul-deep love, started with one idea. So why believe your dreams are any smaller? Write often, write messily, write from truth, write until you start believing it could happen. Write until your heart smiles softly at the thought of it. Write until you find yourself meeting a version of you you once thought could never exist. And one day you will step into a moment. In the real world, look around and whisper, "I once wrote this into being." And when what you imagined begins to have a scent, a sound, a heartbeat, you'll know it's no longer a dream, it's your soul being seen clearly for the very first time. No one truly knows how far you've come unless they saw you when you almost didn't make it. Those quiet moments in the car, hands trembling on the steering wheel, but still you kept driving. Those sleepless nights, filled with 100 unanswered questions. Those meetings where you smiled and nodded, while inside you were silently screaming, "I'm so tired." No one saw the tears you wiped away in the bathroom mirror or the lonely dinners, shared only with the echo of kindness never returned. And yet you kept going, not because you were stronger than others, but because stopping was never an option you allowed yourself. But today, I'm here to tell you this. You don't have to fight alone anymore. You don't have to hold it all together. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. You don't have to convince the world that you're worthy of love, of rest, of the dreams that once felt too far to reach. The Six of Wands has appeared for you, a message from the universe, meant only for the one who walked through fire quietly. This is not the kind of victory others can easily clap for. This is the reward for the silent strength no one ever noticed. For the moments you stood up with no one to lift you. This is for you who never played games, never took shortcuts, never abandoned your integrity. You walked the long, winding path when it felt like there was no end, and now you're still here, whole in your own beautiful, unapologetic way. Your reward isn't money, isn't fame, isn't applause. Your reward is coming home to yourself, to peace, to freedom, to a soft kind of strength that no longer needs to pretend to be okay, because now you truly are If you need one sentence to carry with you from today forward, let it be this: I am the author of my own life. Not the past, not your parents, not society's expectations. You, with your scars, with your strength, with all the wisdom you've gathered along the way. And if you're still here listening to these words, I want you to know, thank you. Thank you for staying. Thank you for not giving up on your light, even when the path was so dark. Thank you for loving, hurting, hoping, failing, rising, and still keeping your heart open enough to hear something gentle like this. In a world that screams, the fact that you've chosen to sit quietly and believe in goodness, that, my friend, is already a miracle. From my heart to yours, thank you.